Hello, everyone, and welcome to Q&A with Qlik. Today, we're going to be talking about Qlik Sense Client Managed. I want to introduce myself. My name is Troy Rainey. I help put together videos and webinars like this one. We've got an excellent expert panel for you today. Alan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I've been with Qlik for almost 9 years, just dealing mostly with Qlik Sense environments, and a few other the tools like imprinting and um, geoanalytics. So that's about it. Shit.
Great, thanks. Mario?
Hi, everyone. Good to be here again. A little bit longer than Alan. I'm celebrating 10 years this year, so very excited to share some insights from that tenure with you today.
Great, thank you. And Mike?
Yep, I'm going on 10 years with Qlik as well. Primary focus has been Qlik Sense Enterprise on Windows, so this should be an interesting panel. Thank you.
And Sebastian?
Thank you. I'm the fresh one here. I'm only 7 years with Qlik, but my main focus was also Qlik Sense Enterprise on Windows, so I'm thrilled for your questions, the same as Mike is.
Great. Well, let's jump into it. When you registered, you had an opportunity to submit some questions ahead of time, and we've got a few of those prepared here. First question. What is the best approach for migrating from a development environment to a production environment? Who wants to address that one?
Go ahead, Sebastian. You got that video on that one.
Yeah, I can take that one. So basically, the question is, what do you want to achieve? Do you want to do a one-to-one copy, so taking your dev environment, what you had, and move it over to a second server, using it as a production environment? Then you can follow this video of the migration of Qlik Sense, where we basically show how you would back up your database, your file share, your apps, and so on, and move it from one location to the other. If you have other use cases, you still want to have both environments, but you just want to migrate apps from place A to place B, you could either use the import-export function, and then you will see that a couple of items like bookmarks might be lost. So for that, we also have tools within Qlik, which you can request via your account manager, and we will be happily having a conversation on what your use case is and how you best can implement the Qlik Sense app migrator, for example.
Great, thank you. All right, next question. Currently on-prem, but preparing for SaaS and interested in any best practices, processes, or advice. Now, Qlik is all about that this year in 2025, and we actually had a Techspert Talk webinar focusing purely on this topic. You can find it in our knowledge base under migrating Qlik Sense Client Managed to Qlik Cloud. I'll provide the link. But this is a great resource where you actually get to see a demonstration of that process and highlights a few tools that are available, and is presented by a couple of gentlemen from our professional services, and they have some great offers to make it much easier. So that link is out there. There's also, trying to bring it up here, another resource. Doesn't seem to be working for me, so I'll just copy paste. Some migration tools.
The tools you were talking about, basically,
Yes.
you can download them now. There are a few apps you can set up to see what is my current use case, how many apps, how many app incising do I have on-prem? Would this work one-to-one in Qlik Cloud, or do I need to change something? And you have a couple of migration scripts there as well. So you can take your on-prem user base and set them up in the cloud with a couple of migration scripts.
Great. All right. And all of that is mentioned in that video. So I think we even have a link to it from there. Next question. Can there be problems with antivirus software during installations or upgrades?
Yeah, I can take that one. And the short answer is yes, absolutely. We have a couple of really good articles on community detailing what these problems can be and some known issues with known solution vendors like Advanced Threat Protection from Microsoft and a couple of others that have been known to cause trouble, especially during the installation process, due to the many file transactions that will occur on a system at that time. Of course, we recommend that you work with your internal IT teams to properly exclude these as reflected in the system requirements for each product. And for those edge cases, always contribute in community first, as there may be others. We all remember, maybe certainly not fondly, the problems that we had last year with CrowdStrike. So these things are bound to happen from time to time in a way that we can't really control or patch ourselves. So always be mindful of that. But when it comes to general policies, we do document quite well what should be excluded to prevent any issues. And of course, if all that fails, there is always a temporary disable as an option.
Yep,
And just to piggyback on that, it's not only antivirus that can cause problems. There are other system things that can cause problems for installs and upgrades, such as FIPS that are enabled in a lot of environments. So that is something that you'll need to look into if you run into upgrade issues as well, which is a security policy that is on a lot of government agencies environments that hasn't been disabled, but there are workarounds for it. But the easiest way to do it is to make sure it's at least disabled during the upgrade process. And then we have documentation on what you need to do to run your entire environment with FIPS compliance.
And also one more thing, this file here, this is a good tool to see if process monitor. If you do encounter issues where your install is failing because of a antivirus, this tool, Process Monitor, could determine what is running in the background that you could actually see that is locking your file for doing your installs.
Yeah, that lets you set up some filters on different actions against disk files, and then it'll give you a list of all of the processes that are interacting with those files.
Yeah, and I'm posting all these links in the chat, so you'll have those with you. Hopefully it all makes sense, but it's a long list of resources that I'm sharing, and I'll make this list of links available with the recording tomorrow, so you don't have to create a bunch of bookmarks right now. I'll be sending out the link to this recording and all the links we're mentioning as soon as I can. All right, next question. What is the replacement for Qlik Forts? I love that we've got some legacy customers that remember Qlik Forts. Perhaps you're still running it. I don't know.
I doubt it. But if you are out there, tell us about it. We'd love to know. I think the overall strategy has been to shift focus into data gateway and direct access gateway for all of those environments where access to protected data sources is important. So this gives you a link between an on-premise data source that is highly secured and highly governed, so that you can expose that data securely to your Qlik Cloud resources. Alternatively, you can also reload on-premise and then distribute to the cloud. We have plenty of customers that do this as well. It's called a hybrid model.
Great. And I posted a link to a Techspert talk where one of our colleagues, Nadia, demonstrated how it works, how to troubleshoot, install, and set it up. And it's a great resource if you're getting started with direct access. Next question. When will a timeline for Gantt-based charts be available in the client-managed offering? This was actually addressed in a recent Techspert talk session, the one from December, by the product manager for visualizations, Patrick Nordstrom. I'll just post the link to it, but it was in the Q&A portion, so it could have been easy to miss. But it probably will be coming soon, but it's something that is available. People always ask for it. And I'm also going to include another link from a separate webinar where Patrick again demonstrated how to build a Gantt chart with existing bar charts. It's a pretty cool demonstration. He walks through all the steps. I'll post that link. So we've got Gantt chart functionality now, but if you want one right out of the box, it should be coming soon. But because everybody has a different idea what a Gantt chart is, as he explains in his answer, it will probably be a fairly limited one. All right, next question. How much longer will client managed or Qlik Sense Enterprise solution be offered? Will there be any type for legacy owners for perpetual licenses? It's a very good question since Qlik messaging keeps focusing on cloud. So what if you don't want to go to cloud? Who wants to address that one?
Well,
I
go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. So like I was saying before, similarly as it happened with Forts and other tools that have become more cloud centric and cloud native, there is still very much a need for a hybrid deployment, let's say, where you do most of your reloads and processing on premise and then distribute that to cloud, be it because of technical or regulatory complexities in your particular environment. So we are expecting a long runway for this product, and it's reached the level of maturity now that everyone can enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. And next question. Are there any plans on improving the QMC, especially regarding task overview? This customer has several hundred tasks and it's a little difficult for them to manage the long chains. Anybody want to address?
Not aware of any specific roadmap item for this, but if you have something specific in mind or an idea for a design, you're always welcome to leave that with us in the ideation portal. This will be made visible to all product managers and will allow us to triage it and also gauge interest. But it is a, let's say, a feature request that we've heard over the years. So please do let us know exactly what you are struggling with in terms of task management.
Definitely.
And Troy, I sent you a link to guidelines for submitting an idea.
Oh, fantastic. Cool. I'll post that link. Because it isn't always that obvious, but this is ideation is a great space, and our product managers definitely focus on this when it comes time to make improvements. So the feature requests that have the most votes get a lot of heavy consideration.
If you can provide that use case and, of what you're missing out on, that would be very beneficial.
Yeah. Next question. Is there a way to remove the search icons from tables just to give more room for the column title? When using Qlik Embed, you can fully customize the look and feel of visualizations or build your own. Now, Mario, did you want to address that one?
Yeah, I think you provided the answer that I left in the document. So Qlik Embed is our new toolkit for cross website integrations, and it inherits a lot of the great work that was done with Enigma and Nebula for our visualizations package and the libraries for different languages to interact with the Qlik engine directly. So this allows you to essentially build whatever functionality you think you are missing or strip away some. Mind you, this has to be done outside of Qlik Sense. Modifying it, you may find exactly where to tweak to disable this in the installation files. There is no permanence here, so those modifications will be overwritten with each upgrade. And besides, given the client code is very, very complex, you don't know if you're breaking something else. So we advise on building your own visualization kits, essentially, or your own UI on top of the Qlik engine, if you have specific navigation needs.
Great. All right, next question. On a single node setup for Qlik Sense, if we experience latency or performance issues, are there any admin tools that can help us track down the process that's taking up the resources? It's a great question.
One of the first things that can help find out what is causing a performance issue is using the telemetry dashboard. I'm not sure if we have a link for that right off the bat. Let's see. The telemetry dashboard is something that can, at least overview is that'll get you a understanding of how much resources you're using inside of the applications, how much RAM, how much CPU is taking to utilize and open up these objects, app objects within the application. That's one thing you can start using. There's a couple different tools that you can be used, some other applications to monitor your logs, which is a log analysis application, which can help, navigate how much processes are being used, how much bottlenecks are occurring. Also, our default monitoring apps is a good place to start as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a ton of resources
My
out there.
advice here, when trying to gauge performance of a specific application, is to try to do comparisons with the app in isolation. Even if it's running in a virtual machine on a laptop, you need to get a baseline with a quiet system to understand just where the ceiling is, let's say, or the bottom is for that particular app. And then performance issues can come from a couple of places. So log analysis can help you understand intra-service traffic. It can help you understand repository performance. But if you want to know what the engine is doing when opening the application as it runs through a number of subtasks, let's say, so it could be doing expansion of the user state. It could be processing section access. It can be building fields on the fly. There is a really, really cool tool that is very little known, but I think it deserves some more time in the spotlight. This is Qlik Explorer for developers.
I just sent you the link, Trey.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is an awesome little tool. It's been recently updated to better reflect the time deltas in between each operation, and this is compatible with both on-premise and cloud. And it will give you a very, very detailed progress report of what the engine is up to when opening that application. So you can see just by the time differences between the different steps where most of that time is being spent.
Great.
And if you want to focus on the last screenshot in this article, that really illustrates well what I'm talking about. Yeah, over there. So can we open this and make it a little bit bigger if you click on the image?
Oh shoot! I clicked on the link.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of timings. There's a bunch of timings in there. These are always time spent since the previous operation, right? And it's a cumulative process. If the whole application takes 2 seconds from start to finish to load, you will see these timings expressed sometimes with a lot of precision in milliseconds, sometimes nanoseconds, microseconds, depending on how fast your system is. But it's a really good way of seeing exactly what the engine is up to and where you're losing most of the time.
Great. All right. Next question. How to send an API request to an RPA bot that's running on the server. In the use case of having an analytics app to find invoices that are overdue. These invoices must then be sent to the RPA bots to assign them to a special team. All right, that's a pretty specific use case, but anybody have some advice when sending API requests to bots?
I think that goes to the direction of running external program tasks, right? In the QMC, where you basically would run a script. So whatever triggers your way of you reload an app, you maybe generate some file somewhere with some IDs which you want to send to this one, then you trigger after this in a chain task, the external task, sending this to your bot. You could potentially also do this completely outside of Qlik Sense, depending on what kind of use case you have. But if we would get a little bit more insight here on what this question, the use case itself, then we can, of course, do a bit more detailed answer on that one. So a good idea would be to contact us, give us a little bit more, and we come back on it.
It gives me an opportunity to plug forums on Qlik Community. If you guys go to Qlik Community and find forums, perhaps analytics and deployment and management, that's where I am, but you might find something that's a little bit more appropriate for what you're asking. But we have over 200,000 users on Qlik Community, employees and experts in the field. I'm sure you could get some feedback to help you out there. So you can definitely consider posting that one there. Next question. Is an SAP connector better for extracting data than the regular ODBC connector on an SAP databank? That's a good question. The SAP connector, in my experience, I mean, it was designed for SAP.
Yeah,
and,
it's
so it's
it
simpler.
specializes it generally has more advantages using the specific connector than an ODBC connector. Let me see if I can find some links on that. I think I have some. Hold on one sec.
Sure. But if it performs better, I would expect it to, but I don't have any research to back that up. It's just my expectation. Well, while you're digging for that, we can move on to the next one, and I'll post the link if you find something. In the QMC, the engine health seems to only update for less than a day after we reboot any of the engines before it appears to stop updating. We're on Qlik Sense May 2024. Why doesn't it continue to update?
I wasn't actually aware that we have an issue here. Seth, does this sound familiar to you?
Yes, we do have at least one case in support about it. So I encourage you to just open a case and we work it from there. We did not manage to replicate this in-house yet, but we have seen a couple of customers where we can reproduce this easily. And it's anything between a day or a couple of hours where it works and then it suddenly stops.
Mm-hmm. One thing that would be useful for an investigation would be to know whether the data in the engine health check endpoint also stops updating, or does it reflect up to the minute information? Is it just a visual quirk of the QMC not showing latest data, or did the health check stop entirely?
No, the health check works. When you see that, you can see that apps are opening and you get different lists, but the QMC doesn't fill up anymore, is what we have seen. It would be interesting, of course, you mentioned patch 11. So if you take patch 11 off, put, for example, patch 7 back, which is way before all the security patches for a day, just to see if it updates, and then you put patch 13 on, which is the latest one, just to see if it makes a gigantic difference, because then we have something more to compare to when it comes to a fast solution.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on. Next question. What is the best way to work collaboratively on an app with multiple developers on premise? In this scenario, they don't have any extensions. I mean, the tool's built to be collaborative. Would you just recommend putting it in a, or what would you guys suggest?
I guess it depends on if you're trying to develop, or create your own sheets. In all honesty, having a application in a single work, your work stream, that's where you're supposed to work on it. If you're trying to work on a collaboratively in a published application, where each person can be working on their own sheets, and then once those sheets are created, they can be published to the actual application. So for all of the public users or the end users. But as far as developing, modifying the data load script in a collaborative format, there's not, that's not the best practice, because you don't want to overstep other people's work. So I think that ideally is be to create your own sheets, get them verified, and then publish those sheets to the actual application so that the end users can see it instead of just them being or elevate the sheets to, um, I can't remember. Sorry. To the
Yeah, so
actual application.
they're publicly available as well to
Right.
the rest of the users that are authorized. It's not a collaborative development platform if you think of Miro boards or any other product where you can see multiple mouse inputs at the same time. That's not what we're talking about here, and I don't think this is going to come anytime soon, at least on premise. And it makes things even trickier the larger the organization, because typically you would be doing development in a lower environment. So there you could have multiple copies of the same application being worked by many different people, and then some kind of cohesive process for promoting that to production that merges everyone's content, be it visualizations or script. One good thing is that as long as you are connected to two different applications, let's say on the same server, on the same consumer node or development node, you can very, very easily copy and paste objects between applications using the same WebSocket essentially, or your existing connection to the server. And that is one quick way to move content across.
Yeah, the other is to use must include statements and have your load script somewhere on a file server, and then use the same templates over and over again. So you would basically have the same details in every app to start with.
Great. Next question. Can you tell us about Qlik Sense event triggers, like field level triggers? So I guess in the applications. Anybody have any experience with that? I know most of you are back-end server experts, but when it comes to front-end development, I don't know how you feel.
I
But
have not
mostly
worked with
what I know,
field triggers. Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, I haven't really worked with field triggers that much myself, but it's mostly that I can tell it's a type of database trigger that is associated with fields and columns and tables. So most events, when you add a trigger, it's dealing with inserts and updates and delete operations. So I really don't have a lot more information than maybe Mike has more, but that's what I gather from my field trigger.
We're talking
From my
about
understanding, I
documents.
think I thought that was more of a Qlik view. I don't think Qlik
Yeah.
Sense, specifically offers field event triggers natively.
No, what we do have in Qlik Sense, both in cloud and on-premise, are sheet level actions. And the custom navigation buttons that allow you to customize that experience a little bit. And of course, the sheet actions allow you to manage, for example, selections, default selections for a particular sheet or state. But there isn't anything specific to a field like there is in QlikView with the field level triggers, if that's what this user is talking about.
Yeah, I remember in QlikView that was a big feature, is all the triggers. Okay, we'll move along. Can you speak to visualization development? I haven't seen any major developments in that area lately, specifically new chart types. Also, there are features in QlikView and third-party visualization libraries that would be nice to see in native Qlik Sense objects. I would say that I chat fairly often with Patrick Nordstrom, who's in charge of visualizations, and they're coming out with improvements all the time. The big one was the container object, where you can put things in containers and have different objects and tabular organization. I feel like there's been a lot. So if you don't already follow the design blog on Qlik Community, that would be a good place to see recent updates.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation as well. And of course, anything that you're missing, shout about it in ideation. We want to know what the field is mostly burning for.
Yeah, there's two blogs here, the design blog and the product innovation blog. Design, focuses a lot on visualizations, but they're coming out with stuff all the time here. So it's a good thing to follow this one. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit subscribe. Great. Moving on. Best practice. Oh, no, I missed one. Will on-premise be supported long-term with QoL features that exist
Quality
on
of
cloud?
life.
Thank you. Or is an end of life planned? So
no end of life planned, long runway for the product as far as we know. And again, quality of life improvements. There have been quite a few delivered during last year, actually, and a few major features like capacity-based load balancing, sticky-based load balancing. All of the security hardening has made it more future-proof, increased support for newer versions of Postgres that has also increased performance. There's there have been a number of tweaks, and of course the biggest one that I can think of was delivered as part of the November 2024 release, and that was the unified UI with Qlik Cloud.
great. Yeah. Someone's asking for the best practice for taking and storing app backups with Qlik Sense SaaS, the Qlik Cloud. And I would say that one of the advantages of cloud is that you don't necessarily need to, but there are some.
You also have the fancy feature of Qlik automations in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So
There you go.
Basically,
Yeah.
take your backup from there, push it to GitHub, wherever you want to have it, and then also do a restore action the same way. So that's something you don't have on-prem inbuilt in the product, but it's something good to utilize in Qlik Cloud.
There's a few recipes or templates, I think, pre-built automations that have to do with content management in cloud. And because there is no recycle bin, let's say, or trash bin function, keeping your own backups is recommended, especially where there are super business critical applications.
Great. Next question. Is it possible to manage tags in Qlik Cloud? For example, rename, delete. We're trying to keep our questions to Qlik Sense Enterprise on Windows, but I want to address everything. So
no, currently, from my understanding, I don't think there's available to delete or update the tags. Let me see if there's anything new on that. But here's a article on that that Alexis put together a while ago. I don't know if it's changed.
Oh. Yeah, Mike found this. Great.
This might have changed. And for all CRUD operations, so create, read, update, delete, if you can't do it today in the UI, always revert back to the API documentation and see if there is a method exposed for that there. The UI may not be ready yet, but the capability to do so may already exist. So you might be able to do it via Qlik automations using raw API calls.
Cool, thanks. Next question. When approving community sheets, making them public, you cannot decide on the position of the sheet, sort order. So I need to copy the app, rearrange the sheets, and then republish the app. Is there an improvement on the roadmap for this?
I would say you couldn't before, but as of November 2024, you should be able to organize your sheets in whatever order and grouping that you choose. And that should be persistent across other users.
Yeah, that is a great improvement. Nice. Love it when the answer is like upgrade. Any big upcoming updates to Qlik Sense coming in 2025? I'm sure there will be, but do you guys got anything in mind?
I think that roadmap is still cooking, so stay tuned.
I would suggest to register for the Qlik community blog, and that will give you updates on anything that's coming up.
That's a great tip.
new features or things like that that Qlik is sharing.
All right. Moving on. One of my clients requested an upgrade of the database because of a security breach with version 14 of Postgres. Oof. Has anything been done to cover that breach in Qlik Sense patches? We're always concerned when it comes to security issues. And
So the
As it, go for it, Seb.
yeah, so what we have as a tool is the QPI tool, right? The Qlik Sense Postgres installer or Qlik Postgres installer, which would basically migrate your embedded 14.8 or 12.5 database into an external 14.8 database, which you then can patch to the latest level. There are still some issues with the files staying over in program files because they would basically be the old binaries from 14.8, but this should be addressed now in the next release, which gives us to some improvements to give away. So in the May 2025 release, we hope to have a different Postgres version bundled than the one we have now, which is hopefully something newer in the 14 track.
Well, that's one update to look forward to. And I sent a link to where Sebastian goes through a demonstration on how to use that QPI tool. So that's a good reference for you.
Yeah, that's an excellent place to start. And I would even say critical to start there because the process can be quite complex and the different permutations of how you started, with what version you started, how you got onto the newer version can change the process that you need to follow. So follow Sebastian's lead on that one. And let us know on the community post itself if you run into issues with the tool. It's under continuous improvement.
Thanks. Next question. Is Qlik Sense going to support database encryption during install?
If they're going to support it, I'm not sure, but right now it does not support encryption during the install, but it requires a configuration post-installation of changing the configuration files for the different types of encryption that you want to do, such as MD5 or SCRAM, SHA-256 within the SSL connection of the configuration files.
And I think the second question is if you can have a SSL transport layer encryption already while you encrypt the database, right? So the host SSL setting in the PG config instead of changing the MD5 or SHA-256 at the end. That's a no for now. They're working on it. It's on the improvement board list. So at some point it should come, but right now it's not possible. As Mike said, you have to switch it on after the installation. For that, however, we did give out a quick tool, which we ship in the tools folder in Qlik Sense. It's called Qlik Sense SSL. And you can basically, with this Postgres, again, PowerShell script, switch on encryption or switch it off for all the config files at once. So you don't have to go in to change any single file. You just run the script with true or false as a parameter, and then it will do the magic.
That sounds great. If you can find the link to that, I'll post it.
Sure.
All right. Next question. Can you remind us where to find the forum to ask for new features? I'd be happy to highlight that. That is under, if you go to, I'll just start from the Qlik community. Qlik community, discover, oh no, it's under support, ideation, and browse and suggest. This is a place where you can recommend improvements to the product, feature requests, things like that. Do check it out. I'll post the link one more time. Okay, next question. What is the best way to work collaboratively on apps with multiple developers? Oh, we did that one. All right. Moving on. I have an issue with the REST connector API upon installing on a freshly set up server. The general installation runs fine, but the REST API creates an issue. Can it be linked back to a bad port setup? For example, port 4242 not open? I'm not able to diagnose the issue.
So port conflict is the most common problem, but the service files themselves, in this case, the repository's service files inside the trace folder specifically, will have most detailed information about the startup process, and that will let you know if there is a problem with getting a lock on that port because somebody else or some other process is using it, or because something else is failing at the operating system level. But if you are running into these issues with a fresh install on a fresh machine, more likely than not, it will come down to some sort of configuration policy or communication policy that is applied to that machine.
All right, that's very helpful. Next question. Is there a resource for main differences between Qlik Sense Client Managed and Qlik Sense Cloud? I feel like I've seen something that a product manager
Hmm.
shared highlighting the differences, but I can't think of where that is.
I would say like the entirety of Qlik.com.
Yeah, and we're talking here, products, analytics, and they talk about it a lot here, but I feel
Here,
like
I'm gonna send you a link that
Oh.
talks about comparing Qlik Sense Client Managed
there it
to Cloud.
is. Wonderful.
But it's more towards migrating. It's in the migration, but it's just one thing that we have on our help site regarding comparing. But it doesn't give you. That's not necessarily all the full-on comparison of like what
features
cloud
and
can do
capabilities.
versus right.
I would say the big advantages to using cloud over on-prem is all the AI features that just come with it. That's a big thing. Application automation. There's a lot of cool features with the cloud, but I'll move on to the next question. Can you share some highlights for the current roadmap? Yeah, we already got that one, so I'll just move on.
Yeah, but since there's been so much interest and a bit of radio silence since November 24 came out with the UI redesign, I think it's a good idea that we follow up with product management here and maybe invite them to a next discussion so they can show and tell themselves.
Next question. Are there any plans to support HTTP 2 in the virtual proxy for enterprise?
Not immediately aware of roadmap on the proxy side of things, but we will check and get back to you. This is something that will be communicated widely on community as well, if and when it becomes available.
Okay. Next question. We're running QlikView and on-premise Qlik Sense. Our main production systems are QlikView based, and we are using Qlik Sense to develop some end-user visualizations. The underlying data model is complex, so do not want to redevelop it. I totally understand that. I do a binary load of the QVW into Qlik Sense and then build the visualizations as required. Are there any major issues that I should be aware of for loading data in this way? I can't think of any.
Not much.
Yeah.
If the data model was already productive in the QlikView application, we actually typically recommend you do this as a quick way to get that data across into a Qlik Sense application and then start redesigning from scratch if direct conversion doesn't work for your particular use case. But essentially, as we've said many times, perhaps this particular customer is not familiar, but the engine is the same across platforms and across products. So it should react to the same exact way. And in fact, you could easily compare the data model using the data model viewer once binary loaded in Qlik Sense with that one available in QlikView. Of course, with a binary load, you may not actually see all of the relations and connections, associations that you've created and in the QlikView one. So you may have to refactor some things.
And
but
it sounds like it's working for you,
inherent risk. There's a lot of customers actually that do binary loads for other reasons in Qlik Cloud with good track record. I wouldn't anticipate any particular problems.
And I just provided the link to this as a resource. It was a Techspert talk we did a while back where one of our colleagues demonstrated the process for migrating to Qlik Cloud, if that's something you're interested in. Next question. Speaking of QMC, the ability to export the view of the app or task screens would be very helpful.
Well, we can raise a flag about a feature request. We did deliver something in this area, and that was the ability to export the audit view, so that you can keep track of permissions across the board and make sure that they don't change over time. But I don't know that we're expected to deliver a specific export functionality on these two views, but they are compared to the work that R&D had to do for the audit side of things. I would imagine it's quite a bit simpler. So
You
can't
could
hurt to
also get
ask.
that information using API calls.
Mhm.
All this information is out of in the database, and if you can do API calls and export that information into a type of text document using API calls
Yeah.
against the QSR.
There's different ways of doing that, from raw API calls using PowerShell to using some of our toolkits like Qlik CLI. Both the older and the newer version, they both support Qlik on-premise, and they also support different output formats. So you can format it in CSV or JSON and then use it in either in a pipeline to post-process it or just to archive.
All right, we'll see if we can get through a few more questions before we run out of time. Next question, should we retire the QVD layer in preparation for cloud migration? I don't know about you guys, but I would say you're able to build QVDs in the cloud. And so I don't think Qlik is going to move away from QVDs. So that's certainly something that is going to stick around for a while. So I don't.
No, I think in fact with cloud and lineage enabled, you get a lot more benefit because there is a visualization tool built in there for that. And this is one technique that our larger, more complex customers use to properly govern access to data in different slices.
So no need to get away from QVDs. It's sticking around. Next question. On a single node setup for Qlik Sense, we're going through a server migration. We're done with the installation and initial restore configuration on the new server. We're currently validating and testing the processes on the new server installation. After the validation, if we want to do a final sync of the environment, apps, QVDs, config, what are the steps to follow versus having to do a complex restore configuration again? So any final sync of the environment was the summary question there.
I mean,
See if I
there's
get
not
it
going to
there.
be a way to directly sync them up. There's going to have to be, if you're trying to migrate the environment, it's not like the shared persistence, old shared persistence where you can, but so you will have to migrate and export everything and restore to the new production environment.
Okay, that's fair.
Alternatively, you can use some of the tools that I mentioned earlier, like Qlik CLI to export and then import. There's also some different techniques for migrating content across, including security rules and things like that. That could be done through API calls. But the more complex an environment it is, the more actual volume of content that you have to move between these two systems, the more a need for proper manual inspection and move over is needed. I think you can rely on those tools to do most of it. And certainly I would use them to migrate security rules, for example, so that you don't have to extract them directly from the database or manually put them in one by one. But when it comes to content migration itself, or synchronizing this between two different environments, this is not something that the product has built in.
I would also recommend to reach out to your account manager and arrange a meeting with professional services. They have a lot of tools and suggestions that they could offer to make your migration smooth and for the new server environments.
All right. Next question. I've attended a few Qlik Cloud webinars and I've seen there are many new features that aren't available on Enterprise yet. What's the roadmap close to the functional gap between Enterprise and Cloud, even closing the gap between Enterprise Qlik Sense and Qlik View? I'm still noticing missing some features that were in QlikView but not in Sense yet. All right, so two questions there. And I would say that all the features that are available on cloud, especially when it comes to app development, those are included in each update. But with cloud, they come up right away. And with enterprise, you actually need to update your software. Uh, I don't know if there's anything you guys want to add to that, but
some capabilities may rely on things that simply don't exist on premise, and that would require entire new functionality or services to be written from scratch, essentially. And a few of those truly have a value in a self-hosted environment, where you really benefit from those things, isn't a cloud scalable solution. So I would say don't expect full feature parity. I think there is a reason why some things are still lacking behind. There is a thing to be said about complexity. There is a thing to be said about market needs. But if you do have a specific thing that you really, really wish was backported, let's say, or brought down from the cloud onto your self-hosted environment, do let us know through the ideation channels and community, and we can follow up on the conversation there.
yeah, and if there's some features from QlikView that you were really missing in Qlik Sense, please let us know in ideation as well. But there, again, there's no real parity there between the two products that's planned that I'm aware of. Okay, moving on. Would love to connect and discuss Qlik with anyone
That's another
interested.
question.
Oh, thank you. We have a dedicated server for reload tasks. After a while, the server crashed because it ran out of memory. The question is, does the Qlik Sense engine purge the cache after the reload is done?
Yes, it should. Depends on what exactly you're doing in terms of reloads
And how often?
and stacking. But for dedicated reload nodes where there is no consumption, there is no risk of discarding an end user's cache. We have a couple of settings tweaks that you could use, like clear cache times per day, for example, that we have rolled out in the past with large enterprise customers. This essentially is a ticking time bomb from the moment that you start your engine, and every so often it will try to clear. Again, try is the operating word here. Try to clear as much of that accumulated cache as possible. There is no risk of doing this in a reload environment because that memory allocation is only transient. But if you are repeatedly having memory-related crashes and issues, it could be that you've outgrown the capacity of the server and you may need more resources.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it might also be good to just contact us with a case so we can have a look about your current sizing and what you're trying to do.
And also how often you're trying to reload specific applications. So like say if it previously took 30 minutes and you're reloading it every 20 minutes or every 45 minutes, and now it's taking 45 minutes to reload, and you never changed the time, it could be stacking and never being released.
Yeah, exactly. And as a good resource to get started on inspecting, on troubleshooting as well, everything that has to do with task management, I would highly recommend using the Qlik Admin Playbook. There's a couple of different procedures in there, both for first gathering information about your current status, and then what you can do to clean it up and simplify operations at that level will help you with these sort of situations. But if the crashes are often and for seemingly unexplained reasons, we'd be more than happy to take a look at these diagnostics and traces by a support case.
All right, we'll see.
And Troy, could you bring up the Qlik Admin Playbook on your screen? So that would be instead of the unable to delete tags. That's a good one to have on the screen.
Oh my goodness, my sharing seemed to have been paused. There it is.
All right. So if you select a category there, I think there should be task management, asset management.
Thank you. Check finger tasks, analyze tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of features here.
Yeah.
Well,
The perfect way, I think, to get some low-hanging fruit when it comes to a cleanup exercise is to look at past success rates of certain tasks. You would be surprised how many you might find that have never run successfully, but still try every day, or maybe every hour, or maybe every 10 minutes.
Great. Well, we're running low on time. See if we can squeeze in one or two more questions. Are there any known issues with the Qlik Sense ServiceNow connector? You guys aware of anything?
Not that we're aware of, but if you drop us a note in community or a support case on what exactly you're having issues with, might be able to help further.
All right. And somebody was next question asking if to have a button to launch application reloads, but it doesn't work for other users. The other users have professional licenses, publication rights in the application, but there's an error code 5 when they click on the button. Any idea why?
Your error code 5 usually means access denied. So you have no rights to do that activity. Either you don't have access to the app, or you protected it with section access or something like that. The next question is like, do you trigger the button from inside the app? And the app maybe reloads and therefore takes your session off. So there are a couple of options here to investigate, but if you are unsure about it and it works for everybody else who is set up exactly the same way, then just try to send us a sample app and we will have a look.
Yep, that's fair. Here's a survey that you can fill out to let us know what you thought about today's session. I posted a link to that in the chat. It looks kind of funny. We'll see if we can answer one or two more questions. To enable multiple developers working on the same app, we allow everyone to create master items. What is a good way to avoid duplicated master items?
The short answer here would be don't allow everyone to create them. No, but in all seriousness, not much that you can do. Of course, you can try to catch these programmatically with API calls and look for similar names, and try to always keep so you have a rolling cleanup mechanism that only keeps the very latest version of that master item. And there should be some that are locked behind security rules so that only certain administrators or content managers could manage.
Also,
it can get messy quickly.
Also set up a standards for your developers, so everybody's making them a specific way, named a specific way, so that there's a process that you got to go through before making them, so that you can, if it's a master item for a specific application, or just label it properly so that when you go in and look at it, see if it's duplicate. Just set up a process for all your developers to follow.
Well, I want to thank all the great questions, everyone for attending. Thank you to this great expert panel for addressing everything. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you.